The first day without an alarm felt almost illegal. For 35 years, I had woken up to other people's schedules. The company clock, the meeting alerts, the polite tyranny of email. Then, one ordinary Tuesday, I didn't. The world kept spinning anyway. My name is Eva Miller, 65, recently retired, freshly confused. I live in Savannah, Georgia, on a street that smells of magnolia and old stories. 2 grown kids, polite calls on Sundays, a house too quiet for its size, and a mind that didn't know what to do with silence. For weeks after retirement, I rearranged drawers as if meaning could be found between batteries and sewing kits. I polished silver, refolded towels, updated passwords, anything to simulate purpose. Until one morning, I realized I wasn't tired, I was unused. That's worse. So I wrote 3 sentences in my notebook. 1. Stop waiting for the kids to call. 2. Stop apologizing for wanting excitement. And 3. Buy sneakers meant for running towards something. And I did, in a very Eva sort of way. It began at the flea market, where nostalgia comes cheap and the past is sold in boxes. Among tables of dusty records and porcelain cats stood a cardboard sign, Travel Stories Club, open meeting today. Inside the booth were a dozen people laughing over a map filled with pins. No influencers, no itineraries, but wanderers who collected moments instead of miles. A stranger's kindness in a train station, a pie from a nameless roadside diner. They called themselves the Second Wind Society. I listened, fascinated. They invited me to a meeting that evening at an old library building turned community hall. I almost said no, old reflex, but curiosity overruled fear. That night, 12 people shared tea, laughter, and the quiet courage to start over. No one asked for resumes. We talked about places that changed us and people we never thanked. I went home with something I hadn't had in years: anticipation. I opened my empty calendar, the same one that used to suffocate with appointments, and began to fill it again. Not with chores or doctors, but with life. Tuesday, club meeting. Friday, swing dance class. Sunday, breakfast with May from the club. It felt like lighting candles in a house that had been dark for too long. By the end of that week, I'd made what I called the yes list. A record of every silly thing I used to refuse. Kayaking lessons, swing dancing, even if my knees protest, volunteering at the neighborhood center, saying yes to new faces without rehearsing my excuses first. The community center was a mess of folding chairs, forgotten paint cans, and potential. The city planned to sell it to developers. Something beautiful, they said, which usually means something expensive. We decided to fight for it, not with petitions, but with proof of life. We organized a Second Breath Day, a festival of small rebirths, workshops, art, food, laughter. That's where I met Leon, a former musician with the easy posture of someone who'd once carried a guitar instead of a briefcase. He offered to gather a few friends for a jazz evening. When he smiled, it wasn't flirtation, it was recognition, like 2 people realizing they'd been standing in the same rain. I didn't call it attraction. At our age, labels are heavy and hearts prefer quiet. A week later, we met by accident, or maybe not, at the river where locals rent kayaks. I wanted solitude, he wanted sunrise. Turns out they share the same schedule. We paddled side by side, parallel but unhurried. Leon told me about his former life, a small band, one modest hit, then a tabloid scandal that ended everything overnight. He hadn't caused it, he just refused to play along. He left the industry, built a workshop, learned the dignity of silence. I told him about the silence after my husband's death, the kind that doesn't echo but settles. We didn't trade tragedies, we compared recoveries. It felt balanced. That evening, my daughter Sarah texted. She said she was proud of my project, but worried I was too involved. Translation: Mom, please stay safe inside your comfort zone. I replied, Sweetheart, comfort zones are just padded cages. She sent a heart emoji. The universal sign for, I disagree politely. Preparation for the festival turned into a mission. The center became a hive. Painters, bakers, retirees with toolkits. We built the schedule like a symphony. Laughter between lessons, rest between songs. I called the mayor's office daily until they remembered my name, politely. When nerves hit, I told myself that saving a building was easier than saving oneself. The day arrived bright and defiant. By noon, the street outside bloomed with music and chalk drawings. Kids sold lemonade, a teacher gave free math lessons titled No Fear of Numbers, and someone's dog became the unofficial mascot. When the deputy mayor arrived, the man deciding our fate, I didn't give him a speech. I gave him a tour. A grandmother teaching teens how to sew on buttons, a father drawing maps with his daughter, a couple dancing badly, but joyfully. By the time Leon took the stage, the official looked human. Leon's song wasn't about protest. It was about loss that doesn't end you, only redirects you. He sang softly, and by the last chord, people were standing, not for him, but for themselves. That night, the deputy mayor shook my hand and said the city would give us 3 months to prove sustainability. 3 months. After 50 years of waiting for someone else's approval, that sounded generous. Sarah showed up unannounced that evening. No makeup, no clipboard, just curiosity. She walked through each room of rebirth. The hands, the voices, the silence, the laughter. She lingered longest in the room of silence. When she emerged, she looked softer. Not converted, just moved. Sometimes love changes shape quietly. The following week, she brought her friend from work and a box of donated books. I didn't gush. At our age, joy wears subtler colors. Within a month, the center became a living organism. 2 retired carpenters fixed the porch. Local teens ran a Saturday cafe. We added a rooftop garden with mint and strawberries. The air smelled like persistence. People began saying we instead of they. That's when you know a place is alive. One evening, Leon and I were repainting a hallway when the power went out. The room glowed faintly from the streetlights. We sat on the floor, backs against the wall, listening to the hum of a world still busy outside. He said he'd been offered a chance to join an old bandmate for a reunion tour. 6 states, 3 months. It was more nostalgia than career, but still tempting. I felt that small sting of fear, the one that reminds you how easy it is to lose something you never labeled. He asked what I thought. I said, go if it calls you. Just remember to come back. He smiled. I might, but maybe I'm already where the music sounds right again. The lights flickered back. Neither of us moved for a while. By midsummer, the city approved our long-term plan. We celebrated not with speeches, but with lemonade. Homemade, tart, imperfect. I started keeping a jar labeled Future Repairs and Sudden Joys. People dropped in coins, buttons, poems. It filled fast. Instead, we traded small victories. She'd fixed the faucet. I'd mastered a new dance step. I realized something. We hadn't fixed our relationship. We'd grown it into something truer. Parent and child had become 2 women comparing notes on courage. One windy afternoon, I took a group of new kayakers on the water. Halfway through, a man panicked as the current shifted. I steered beside him, told him to breathe, match the rhythm. Within minutes, he was steady. As we drifted back, I smiled at the metaphor shouting through the scene. Sometimes all someone needs is company until they remember they can move on their own. Maybe that's what all of us old souls are doing, accompanying others until they find their paddle. That night, after everyone had gone home, I stayed behind. The rooftop garden shimmered under string lights, quiet except for the hum of the city far away. I opened my notebook, the same one that once held my to-do lists, and wrote a letter. Dear younger me, you were never lazy, just waiting for permission that no one needed to give. Life didn't end at retirement, it just changed its costume. The world didn't shrink, it slowed down so you could finally walk through it. You worried about being alone, yet look, your days are crowded now. You wanted to be needed. Turns out you just needed to say yes. And love? It didn't arrive with fireworks. It came quietly, carrying paintbrushes and jazz chords. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, and left the lamp on in the hallway, not as a symbol, just a habit of hope, because someone, somewhere, might still be on their way home. By late August, Savannah had turned into a slow oven of heat and noise. The city breathed humidity, the kind that made everything shimmer, even regrets. We were preparing the first anniversary of the community center's reopening, a milestone no one had expected to reach. The forecast promised sunshine. It lied. A sudden storm rolled in an hour before the event. Thunder, wind, the kind that tests both tents and tempers. People scattered inside. The garden tables nearly took flight. For a moment, I thought, that's it. Nature has spoken. Then something incredible happened. Leon grabbed his guitar, a few teens dragged extension cords inside, and we turned the storm into the stage. Rain hammered the roof, lightning flashed behind the windows, and he played anyway, barefoot, soaked, laughing like a man who refused to lose twice to chance. Everyone clapped to the rhythm of thunder. The whole building shook, not from fear, but from life. When the power went out, people lit their phone flashlights. For 10 minutes, we were pure energy. No age, no labels, just pulse. Afterward, when the storm passed, I stepped outside barefoot. The air smelled like wet soil and freedom. Leon came out too. His shirt stuck to his skin, grin wider than reason. He said, "Maybe the universe just likes good acoustics." And somehow that sentence felt like a promise. A week later, an envelope arrived from City Hall. Embossed logo, polite font, the kind that usually means paperwork or trouble. They wanted to expand the center's program citywide and offered me a paid coordinator position. It was everything I'd secretly hoped for, except I wasn't sure I wanted it. Because this place worked precisely because it wasn't run by bureaucracy. I read the letter 3 times, then left it on the kitchen table like a moral exam. That evening, I told Leon. He smiled the way people do when they already know your heart's answer. "You built something free," he said. "Don't turn it into another job." I slept badly, but in the morning I realized he was right. Freedom had been the point all along. I wrote back, politely declining, suggesting they instead fund a youth coordinator. The city accepted. And just like that, our small local miracle grew roots beyond me, which felt both humbling and right. It was Leon's idea. Let's drive north. No map, just time. We left the next Friday in his old truck, half music deer, half snacks. The road unspooled through Carolina fields, gas stations with sticky floors, motels with floral curtains. At each stop, we collected small stories. A waitress who'd been to our festival, a veteran who recognized Leon's song, a child who gave me a paper flower and said, "You smell like my grandma's kitchen." We reached Asheville by sunset. There, at a tiny rooftop bar, he finally played our song. Not about loss or return, but about continuity. People swayed, strangers smiled, and I realized how little it takes for a moment to feel infinite. The next morning, we sat with coffee overlooking misty hills. He asked, half serious, "Would you ever move again?" I said, "Only if the river follows me." He laughed softly. That was answer enough. Months passed. Autumn arrived with its confident colors. The center thrived without micromanagement. Sarah now handled its digital projects and scolded me for not knowing how to upload a video. One night, cleaning my desk, I found the first page of that old notebook, the one where I'd written, "Stop waiting, stop apologizing, buy sneakers." I smiled. Those sneakers were worn out now, proof that promises kept can age gracefully. I added one more line beneath. Keep saying yes until yes feels normal. Then I wrote a letter to whoever might find this notebook one day. You might think it's too late to start over. It never is. Just start small. Go where the laughter sounds real. Sit next to the person who listens instead of talks. And if love appears, don't ask what chapter you're in. Just keep reading. I closed the drawer, knowing that even if no one ever read it, the story had already worked on me. Outside, the city lights blinked against the dark river. Somewhere, someone's life was just beginning at the age they thought it would end. And that, I realized, is the quiet victory of growing old with your eyes still open.